Hello, One Piece enthusiasts. I'm the One Piece nerd, and today let's talk about Wano. So, as of chapter 1057, Wano is officially over, and it's finally time to jot down my feelings towards the whole arc. I'm not anyone important, but I just wanted to share, the good parts, the bad parts, and you guys feel free to agree, disagree in the comment section below. And I think I would agree with majority of the fandoms with most of the stuff, but there are definitely things that I disliked more than the fandom, and other things that I liked more than the fandom. But anyways, I share mixed opinions. Let's go. Before I talk about the bad things about the arc, there were definitely bad things. In my opinion, in most of our eyes, we've seen a few problems here and there, and that's what happens when you have a long running series with no time to edit. I'll get to that in a little bit. There will definitely be problems for Oda because he created such a large cast of characters and he had to manage everything at once in such a short time, or he felt that he was dragging it a little bit. He could have thought about it. He got burned out. Maybe we'll get to that. So there will definitely be problems, but there are definitely good things. I like the fact that the arc is super serious. The arc was, well, in a way, it's sort of sad we didn't get to see anything from the country that was actually interesting to see. It was all this tyrant rules the whole country. Everyone, there's always discrimination everywhere. There are people living in poverty. They have no food, no water, no clean water, and everyone, is basically ruled by this one guy who's basically pulling the strings, while giving no one any satisfaction whatsoever. There's not much of an attraction if you think about it. It was all about revenge from 20 years ago, and now we have to basically fulfill the prophecy that has been left behind for 20 years. And let's start. So I like that seriousness about it because it was supposed to be serious. Kaido is a serious character. He's never been taken lightly. He's this huge block. He's this huge roadblock for Luffy to becoming a pirate king, and Kaido is a super serious character who is a massive tyrant and who's basically ruling the entire country without anyone having to bother him. And someone needs to take him off his throne. So, with that being said, let's move on. So, good things about Wano is the fact that, we got to see a very different dynamic. Normally, you don't have such a decent amount of cast playing as host for the arc. What I mean by that is, in Dressrosa and Alabasta, there was always 2 to 3 people that were basically the rulers of the country. Like, for example, in Alabasta, it was Cobra and Vivi. In Dressrosa, it was Kuros, I forgot the king's name, and then Rebecca, Viola. These were the people that the Straw Hats were fighting for. They're the ones who needed power. But it was never that interesting. What I mean by that is they never played important roles when saving a country. They never played much of an active role. Whereas with I may be wrong, in my eyes, I feel the Red Scabbards played a more active role. Yes, they weren't successful. They weren't supposed to be successful, but they played quite an active role in order to liberate Wano. And I feel like that is very interesting when you have sort of a crew squad dynamic the same way as the Straw Hats, but with different characters and in a different place. I actually like that about it. Furthermore, more things to talk about is Luffy's training. We all knew that Luffy's gonna get training while he fights with Kaido, but the different sort of training he got, the way he understood advanced haki, and the way it was spun, we thought it was about advanced armament, then it moved on to be advanced conquerors. I actually like it about that. I like Luffy's training period because the last time we've seen it, that was in post time skip. We barely got to see anything he did. We got to see a little bit, yes, but not to this extent. I like the fact that we get to see Luffy in training. We get the supernovas back in action. Not all of them, but we get most of the supernovas back in action, and that was very good to see. For some of the supernovas, yes, they were a little undertone, but I'm glad we got to see the 3 that I really cared about, which is Law, Kid, and Luffy. 3 of them have been it's been foreshadowed in Sabaody that these 3 would be doing something together that would basically put a huge impact on the world. and they were meant to be rivals to begin with, and I like that how it was played out. Furthermore, the highs, if we're talking about the really high highs, Luffy's Gear 5. Luffy versus Kaido, a Roof Piece, Luffy Gear 5, you know, Kid-in-Law with Awakenings, defeating Big Mom, and then we get to see everything we get to see Robin in action, in proper action. We get to see Zoro unlocking Advanced Conquerors, or achieving, or I don't even know, awakening Advanced Conquerors, using Conquer Haki. Now we know he has Conqueror's Haki. And then everything from, the lore of Wano, how it started. We got to see Odin, we got to see the flashback of Roger's voyage and his rivalry with Whitebeard, which we never thought we would get. We got it in a way that we never expected, and I'm glad we did. We got to see a character like Odin, who we respect the hell out of. And honestly, he's one of the best rulers we've ever seen in One Piece. Aside from that, the entire spiel that happened at the end of Wano, where we got to see the Pluton was in Wano, and the walls. We got to see the extent, sort of a better understanding of why the borders in Wano actually matter. It's not just this simple thing that if it's broken, enemies will come and that's it. No, it's hiding Pluton. It's hiding an ancient weapon that can literally destroy the world. And opening Wano's borders could mean danger for Wano and the danger for the rest of the world. We know how significant Wano is moving on future in the story, for the story's future. And that aspect of it, that world building aspect of it, that entire scope of just Wano not being although it's an isolated country, it actually plays a very important role in the future of One Piece in the end game. I like that. I like how Pluton came into play and basically summed it up that, hey, look, if Wano is destroyed, Pluton gets unleashed, world will be in chaos. So you better make sure that Wano's protected. Probably a reason why Luffy decided to protect Wano in the first place. That aside, we finally have, we're finally done with this. We're finally done beating Kaido. And Kaido was such an interesting character from the start, but it fizzled out in the end. We had Marco come back, which was great, and we needed a little bit of resolve with Marco, but I'm glad he came back and helping the Straw Hats out. That was something that was I really loved it. And as for the rest, I don't have anything on the top of my head that I want to talk about, but yeah, and the farewell of Luffy and Momonosuke, Luffy finally becoming Yonko and then setting up Wano as his territory was one of the biggest highlights in the arc. And hey, all of these that I've mentioned so far are great, but there are definite problems. Let's talk about the problems. Problem number 1, the future Strats. It was built up before. In Water 7, we thought it was going to be Polly. In Alabasta, we thought Vivi would join. There were a bunch of other expectations we had from arcs where we might get future Straw Hats. In Dressrosa, we all expected Bartolome to join the crew, or maybe some other people like Hajruddin or whatnot Cavendish would be joining the crew. Instead, they became Grand Fleet members, which is even greater. Now, potentials like that do arrive. We have no resolve with Vivi. We have no resolution for Vivi. We still don't know where she is. We still don't know if she's going to be joining the crew. But it was a letdown for the people that were following from week to week at that time. For us, this time, it was unprecedented, honestly. Vivi's reasoning for staying in for staying in Alabasta makes a lot of sense. Because she's the princess. For Carrot not joining the crew, it's more like Carrot was incompetent as a character. We never had that affection towards Carrot that we had towards Vivi. And for Yamato, she's the one person that, started proclaiming from the first that, hey, I'm Kozuki Oden, I want to join the Straw Hats. That's a very one-dimensional character, and she's been added for 50 goddamn chapters, which it gets annoying at some point, if you ask me. I got annoyed. I got very annoyed. I know some of the fandoms did. Most of you guys wanted Yamato to join. I understand the reasoning behind it. But look, she's a very one-dimensional character. She's not weak. But a character like that does not fit the criteria of joining the Straw Hats. If there was one character that had the criteria to join the Straw Hats, it was Momonosuke. And Momonosuke was played the same way Vivi was. He's the Shogun of Wano. He needs to stay there as a leader, leading the country from basically dust to basically gold. He has to turn Wano from the ground up to make it one of the best nations in the world. And I like it. I like the fact that Momonosuke didn't join. Although as much as I wanted him to join, he couldn't. Because again, VV circumstances. That makes a lot of sense. But for Oda to build up two candidates, especially Yamato, to join the Straw Hats and in the end just fizzle out like that, and to create a character like Yamato to begin with, I didn't really like that. Because it's unlike Oda to create a very one-dimensional character, especially someone who's joining the Straw Hats. I'm glad she didn't, but her reasoning was pathetic. I don't know where Oda wanted to go with this. Again, here comes the writing process. I do a little bit of story writing, I do a little bit of creative writing, so I sort of understand the science behind writing. For novelists, for people who write basically a 1,000-page book from start to finish and then edit it out and then publish it, it's easy for them to do it because they get to re-edit, they get to do stuff that makes the book better. But for Oda, who only has knowledge for 5 chapters ahead, if I remember the statistics correctly, he doesn't have much room to edit, honestly. He can't go back and edit the chapter that's already been published, or that has already been published, because Shonen Jump. And again, that is a huge disadvantage for a writer who wants to write a huge story. And I understand Oda. And now I can bring back the problem of, Oda. What went wrong with Oda this arc? He had a very big cast. He had a lot of things in his head. He started plot points that could have been expanded, that could have had better resolutions, but that didn't. And the fights were rushed. The ending was rushed. Why is that? Because when you're introducing a large set of characters, you have to maintain a lot of things while maintaining the main scenario of the arc. Main scenario of the arc was the Straw Hat facing off against the Beast Pirates. But there were other hanging plot deaths that were needed to be answered, and other characters that needed to have proper fights. And for a writer to do that much in such a short time is sort of unrealistic, if you ask me. Maybe if Oda had the patience to basically go through the entire thing and make Wano into like a 175 or 200 chapter arc, that would have been possible. But we've been in Wano for 4 years. We as readers at some point got bored. Imagine what happens to the writer who's been doing this for 4 years. It's Oda's style to basically drag stuff up and basically give very good build-ups and have very good resolution. But that gets to you at some point. This is one of the biggest disadvantage for having a very good, very, very, very big build-up. And Oda can't go back and re-edit it because it's Shonen Jump, it's already published, you can't re-edit what you did. My point again. So what I think is, he was getting bored. He wanted to end Wano quick and wanted to get to the final saga. It had also a little bit to do with film-led, but I'm just saying that, hey, Oda messed up. We have to call it. Oda had an L. Oda took a big L this arc. With Yamato, with creating potential Straw Hats and not having them with not giving them proper resolution, with the ending of Wano being rushed, and with villains such as Kaido basically thrown into rubble, I do not like this. I never liked it, and I never will. Because I made a dedicated video to Kaido. You guys can go watch that again. So, and another point being that, let's talk about the ending, honestly. And another thing that Mr. Morge, I've been talking about Mr. Morge for a while now because I sort of understand where he's coming from. His criticisms for Wano is valid, and I stand to agree with some of them. One of them being, Wano had no stakes. The stakes in Wano were low. Remember Alabasta, remember Water 7, the stakes were rising and rising and rising until we had a pitfall and then the crew had to get back up from scratch. That never happened in Wano. Everything in Wano, from the start to finish, was smooth sailing. As much as I like to say it had a dark theme, But everything from start to finish in Wano had smooth sailings. We had no draw. We had no tension in the fights. It was all okay. Him versus him, Robin versus Black Maria, Frankie versus Sasuke. Let's just go through with it. And so we did. And that is it. That is all we can get. We had no character development. We had no tension for most of the fights. And some of the Strats didn't even get proper fights. Again, Oda maybe at that point he felt like it was being dragged on for too long, and that's why he decided to end it. Okay, I understand. Then what happened at the ending with especially Luffy versus Kaido, we had for 5 or 4 chapters straight, one clash each, and we wasted all this time gathering information about the conditions of the rest of the raid, rest of the alliance. Them reacting to the fire and the fire getting resolved. I felt like we spent way too much time on that, and that had no impact. That made no difference whatsoever. And the other thing is Shanks and Green Bull. What was the purpose behind introducing Shanks there? If you're going to have Shanks face off against Green Bull, why not do it later? If you had to show Shanks off, do it somewhere else. The point was to promote film-led, baby. There is definitely a good from it. This is where Momo understood that we're not strong enough to defend Wano. That was a good understanding, but all that to prove this? I don't think so. It never felt right with me. I'm glad we got to see Shanks. I'm glad we get to see that he was looking for the One Piece, but with him fighting off with Aramaki with Conqueror's Haki, yeah, Shanks is super strong. What else? Aramaki is a super bland character, a hateful character, and that's it. And overall, honestly, the ending of Wano wasn't really my favorite. The last chapter in and of itself was not that great, honestly. Aside from the fact that, Luffy, Law, and Kid were in the rivalry again, and Momonosuke's goodbye to Luffy, everything else felt meh. That's my honest opinion. Now, I might be shitting on this arc a little too much, but hey, Wano isn't all that bad. If Kaido and Big Mom if they come back, maybe Wano would be a better reread, but for now, Wano is almost like a 7 out of 10. And yes, I stand by it now. Doflamingo and Crocodile are much better villains than Kaido. If you guys enjoyed the video or hated the video, like, dislike, I don't care. If you guys, want me to tell me your thoughts down, just put them in the comments below. And thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, peace.